Hello and welcome to Shakesyear. We are working on King John, and today we get to hear from King John in Act 3, Scene 1. So the beginning of the scene, we had Constance very upset that Lady Blanche and Louis the Dauphin are going to get married because that's going to unite the kingdoms of England and France, and that means that Arthur doesn't get to have a claim to the throne anymore, or nobody's going to pay attention to her if she complains that he should have the claim to the throne, which rightfully he should. And she's specifically angry with France and Austria because they had promised to back Arthur in this whole thing. So yesterday she was ripping them a new one, and then in walks Cardinal Pandolf, who is sort of the mouthpiece of the Pope, and he shows up and he's like, "Oh, King John, I have a question for you specifically from the Pope. He wants to know why you won't let Stephen Langton be the Archbishop of Canterbury. Like, why will you not allow him to even be in England? What's up with that? Because that's not cool." So, historical note, Stephen Langton was actually the Archbishop of Canterbury. He was not the first choice to be Archbishop of Canterbury. At the time, he was the third choice. The first several that they sent off to Rome for the Romans and papal stamps of approval were not approved. Finally, Langton was approved and everybody liked him except for King John. So King John said, "Nope, not having him. He's not my archbishop anymore, blah, 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 blah." And this created a lot of tension between England and the Catholic Church. And actually, Stephen Langton was kind of sort of responsible for the Magna Carta. So, or at least all of this stuff between King John and the church sort of led to the Magna Carta. So anyway, Cardinal Pandolf comes in and says, "The Pope wants to know why you're not letting Stephen Langton do his actual job, be the Archbishop of Canterbury." And King John replies, "What earthly named interrogatories can taste the free breath of a sacred king? Thou canst not, Cardinal, devise a name so slight, unworthy, and ridiculous to charge me to an answer as the Pope. Tell him this tale, and from the mouth of England, and thus much more, that no Italian priest shall tithe or toil in our dominions. But as we, under heaven, are supreme head, so under him, that great supremacy where we do reign, we will alone uphold, without the assistance of a mortal hand. So tell the Pope, all reverence set apart, to him and his usurped authority." So this is also back when they believed that the right to the throne was a God-given thing. From God to the king to the rest of the people. So King John feels totally justified in standing up to the Pope like this, because he's like, "I'm just as close to God as you are." And basically what he's saying is, when Stephen Langton went and got approved by Rome, he stopped being an Englishman, he became an Italian, and he no longer gets to preside in England. But since I'm the second best thing to God anyway, I will just fulfill God's wishes and uphold God's laws here in England without the help of your silly mortal Archbishop of Canterbury. The King of France over there is like, "Blaspheme much?" And King John is like, "Excuse me, I have every right to, so you can just shut your face." And Cardinal Pandolf says, "Well, if that's the case, you're excommunicated. Bye-bye. And France, you're supposed to watch over his excommunication and make sure that he stays excommunicated." France now is in a really uncomfortable position, the King of France, because he's like, Louis is supposed to marry Blanche, and we just agreed to this to stop a war, but now I have to uphold the excommunication of the uncle of the woman that Louis is supposed to. So he's hemming and hawing and going back and forth, he can't decide what to do. And meanwhile, Constance is like, "Yes, I prayed that something bad would happen to these kings, and here it is, something bad is happening to these kings." And of course, because he does, Philip the Bastard throws in and hang a calf skin from his recreant limbs, just because he can, to start another little tiff over there. And it gets down to the Jeopardy theme song is running out, and they need to get an answer from France whether or not he's going to take on this responsibility. And tomorrow we get to hear from him to find out whether or not he will. I'll see you then for that. Mwah.